Well, plans have been in the works for several months now to create a Texas stock exchange, and now some new investors are getting involved, and they have names that you will recognize. Holden Weiland with the Dallas Business Journal is here with us today to talk more about this. Holden, thanks for being with us. This is going to be a really big deal, and it's got some big names attached to it. We were reading through your article today, and Charles Schwab would be one of those big names.
Yeah, they've got over $150 million in backing. CEO Jim Lee says this is the best capitalized stock exchange they'll ever file that has filed an application to date. Some of the big names that were previously announced included BlackRock, Citadel Securities, Fortress Investment Group, which is co-headquartered here in Dallas. But recently they unveiled a whole new list of more investors, the biggest one being Charles Schwab, which is, of course, headquartered right around the corner in Westlake.
Let me ask you about this. For people who haven't been following this closely, you hear a lot about the New York Stock Exchange. We just showed the numbers for that. The NASDAQ, we just showed numbers for that. Most people think of those two when they think of stocks, and they wonder, like, well, why do you need a whole new exchange, which would be called the Texas Stock Exchange and based here in Dallas? What is the reasoning behind this? What is the push behind this?
The big reason is the growth of Dallas as a financial hub. We've got the second biggest workforce of financial workers in the country. We've got billions of dollars in capital located here between family offices and private equity firms and other capital that have moved here. But the big reason is, you mentioned the NASDAQ and New York Stock Exchange. The number of public companies that are listed in the United States has declined over 40% in the last 25 years and increased 35% elsewhere in the world. Because of all the companies that are moving here and staying private, Jim Lee and the other backers of the Texas Stock Exchange see an opportunity to create a better exchange, an easier way for companies to go public, and that'll specifically help here in Dallas, where we've got so many companies moving here.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So, a lot of these companies are private companies right now. They would like to get out there and be public and sell shares, and people could invest in them and potentially make money off of those stocks. But they just can't get into the other two, or there's their onerous conditions in place to get into those. This one, would be hard to get into as well. It'd have its own standards and all of that. But right now, there's such an expense. It's expensive to go list on one of those other exchanges. Is this one supposed to, take away some of that expense?
Yes. So, it can cost upwards of $25 million, even $100 million to go public, and then it costs about $5 million to $25 million, depending on various factors, to just remain public per year. And some of that is because of some of the new regulations over the years, particularly some of the backers of the Texas Stock Exchange point to ESG standards. The Texas Stock Exchange, while still maintaining the highest standards according to the founders, won't be as much focused on ESG. It'll be more focused on the things related to actually operating and running your business and making sure you're capitalized. There'll still be a cost to be listed, but they don't expect it to be anywhere near as high as it would be to be on the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange.
I think some people might be surprised to hear, when you just said a few moments ago, too, that this area is home to the second largest number of financial professionals in the country, only behind New York, which has a ton of them. So there's a lot of talent here, a lot of ability here, a lot of smarts here to put something like this together. There's been so much talk about Y'all Street, essentially, and bringing a lot of these companies to Texas, not only to list on an exchange, but then they would be based in Texas. What does this mean for, people who aren't necessarily interested in all the intricacies of setting up a big exchange like this, and who might not necessarily be investing in a lot of these companies? How will this affect North Texas when something of this size gets going?
There's a lot of different reasons. One is jobs. Just the stock exchange itself, while not going to be a huge employer, still probably going to have, about 100 people. And then you have all the ancillary businesses and companies that'll support it. There'll be services, and those companies will hire people. But if you have all these companies going public and growing here, they're going to continue to hire people. If you have companies that are moving here, they're going to draw more investment, more people. And when those companies grow, they might spin off or have spin-offs, creates more jobs, more capital. So it's just going to be a flywheel and create a lot of investment here in Dallas.
Yeah, I was taken by one of the descriptions that was included in your article from someone that said that they're sort of likening this to DFW Airport when that was first originated decades ago, and the growth that came to North Texas from that. They're seeing something sort of parallel with this.
Yeah, DFW, look at how it's grown over 50 years. It started off what it was, and now it's one of the biggest hubs in the whole world. The founders of the Texas Stock Exchange, obviously see an immediate impact they see an immediate need, but really they have a long-term vision of what this can grow to in the decades ahead. And they've even said that they expect there to be other regional exchanges that'll form and try and compete or be copycats. But they welcome that because that just means more investment and more capital.
So they expect to file for all of this and maybe get this thing rolling and make that filing later this year in December. They wouldn't get a decision until what, the following December, and then right after that, I guess trading could begin here.
Yeah, it's a very onerous process that they have to go through. They will file a 4,000-page application this December. They think they'll be able to get it done in a year. We'll see. They're probably going to get some pushback from the big New York exchanges, so it could be a little bit longer. But they say it'll be a year, and then they expect to see their first listings in 2026.
Yeah, I could see the big boys putting up a little bit of resistance to something like this. It's competition. Holden Weiland with the Dallas Business Journal. Thanks so much for being on with us today. Very interesting article on this today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Check them out online if you'd like to read that article at the Dallas Business Journal. It is fascinating, and it's going to have big implications for what happens here in North Texas. Thank you.